As Amara's desperate wish to save her brother comes true, her joy quickly turns to fear when her mother mysteriously falls ill. Realizing the cursed calabash demands a painful price for every gift, Amara is torn between saving her family and breaking free from its dark power. Haunted by whispers and strange events, she ventures into the forbidden forest to confront the spirits behind the calabash. With her family's fate hanging in the balance, Amara faces an impossible choice that could cost her everything. Will she find a way to outsmart the ancient spirit, or will the curse consume her and her loved ones? Amara lived in a small, quiet village called Bembe. The people of Bembe loved farming and fishing, but they also loved stories. One story they always told was about a cursed calabash that brought both good luck and terrible danger to anyone who owned it. Most people believed it was just an old tale to scare children, but Amara knew better. Her grandmother, Mama Lani, had always warned her about the calabash. "This calabash has great power, Amara," Mama Lani would say in her soft voice. "It will give you what you want, but it will also take something away from you." Amara never took her grandmother seriously. She loved Mama Lani, but she thought the old stories were just made-up things to keep her away from trouble. But when Mama Lani died, everything changed. On the night of her passing, Mama Lani left Amara the very calabash she had always warned her about. Amara stared at the brown, round object in her hands. It looked like an ordinary calabash. It was smooth and shiny, with strange carvings that twisted and turned like a snake's body. Amara thought about throwing it away, but something in her heart told her to keep it. She placed it on the shelf in her small, mud brick house and decided not to think about it again. But that night, strange things began to happen. Amara was sleeping peacefully when she heard a soft whisper in the dark. It was faint at first, like the rustling of leaves in the wind, but soon it became louder. "Amara!" The voice sounded like it came from deep inside her room. Her heart pounded as she slowly sat up in bed. She looked around the room, but everything was still. The moonlight peeked through the window, casting shadows on the walls. Her eyes landed on the calabash, and to her horror, it was glowing softly. She gasped and backed away from it, but something stopped her. The whispering continued, and now it was clearer. "Amara, I can help you. I can give you what you desire." Amara shook her head, scared. "No, you are just a story," she cried, but the voice only grew stronger. "Do not fear me. I am here to serve you." The next morning, Amara decided to visit Kelechi, the village's wise old man. Kelechi knew all the stories of the ancestors and their magic. She told him about the glowing calabash and the whispering voice. Kelechi's face darkened. "You must be very careful, my child. That calabash is no ordinary object. It is said to be tied to powerful spirits. They can grant your wishes, but every gift has a price." "What kind of price?" Amara asked, her hands trembling. "No one knows for sure," Kelechi replied, shaking his head. "But the stories say that whoever uses the calabash loses something dear to them." Amara returned home, her mind racing. She thought about throwing the calabash into the river, far away from Bembe, but a part of her was curious. What if the calabash really could help her? What if it could make her life better? She was tired of being poor and struggling every day to get by. Maybe this was her chance to change everything. That night, as the village slept, Amara found herself standing in front of the calabash again. It was quiet now, no glowing light, no whispers. But deep inside, Amara could feel its power calling to her. Taking a deep breath, she whispered, "I wish for my crops to grow and for my family to have all the food we need." For a moment, nothing happened. The room was still. Then, a soft wind blew through the window and the calabash began to glow again. The light was bright, filling the room, and Amara felt a shiver run down her spine. The next morning, Amara was shocked to find her small field of crops had grown overnight. The maize and yams stood tall and ripe, and her family was amazed. Word quickly spread through the village, and everyone praised Amara for her miracle crops. She had more food than she could ever imagine. But as the days passed, strange things began to happen again. Her little brother, Tunde, who had always been full of energy, became weak and sick. No matter what they did, he couldn't get better. Amara was filled with guilt and fear. She began to wonder if the Calabash had something to do with Tunde's illness. Desperate, she went to Kelechi again, but this time the old man's face was full of sadness. The Calabash had granted your wish, but it has taken away something in return. Your brother's strength is a price for your prosperity. Amara was horrified. She had not meant for this to happen. She ran back to her house and grabbed the Calabash, shaking it angrily. "Bring back my brother's health," she shouted. But the Calabash did not glow this time. It stayed silent and cold in her hands. Days turned into weeks, and Tunde's condition worsened. Amara tried everything to make him better, but nothing worked. The Calabash, once a source of hope, had now become a curse. One night, as Amara sat beside her brother's bed, tears in her eyes, she heard the whisper again. "You can save him, Amara, but you must make another wish." Amara hesitated. She knew the Calabash would demand another price, but she was willing to do anything to save her brother. Amara's heart raced as the whisper filled her ears. She knew she couldn't trust the Calabash, but the sight of her brother, weak and pale, tore at her. The Calabash had already taken something precious from her family, but what if she could undo it? What if this time the price wouldn't be as cruel? She clutched the Calabash tightly, feeling its smooth surface under her trembling fingers. "What must I do?" she asked in a shaky voice, the fear gripping her tightly. The whisper returned, soft yet chilling. "Wish, and he will be saved." Amara closed her eyes, battling the storm of her thoughts in her mind. What if this wish made things even worse? What if the Calabash demanded something she couldn't give? But when she looked at Tunde's frail body lying in bed, she couldn't bear the thought of losing him. He was just a boy, full of life and laughter, and now he was slipping away because of her selfish desire for a better life. With a deep breath, Amara made her decision. She leaned close to the glowing Calabash and whispered, "I wish for Tunde to be healthy again." At first, nothing happened. The room was quiet, the only sound being Tunde's shallow breaths. Amara held her breath, waiting, hoping. Thanks for listening this far. If you enjoy the story, please click the like button, leave your comments, click on the share button, and share with your contacts. Also, please subscribe and turn on your post notifications for further videos. Thank you. Now, back to the story. And then, a soft glow began to radiate from the Calabash once more. The light spread across the room, wrapping around Tunde like a warm blanket. Suddenly, Tunde stirred. His eyes fluttered open, and color began to return to his cheeks. He sat up slowly, blinking in confusion. "Amara," he said weakly, "what happened?" Tears filled Amara's eyes as she hugged him tightly. He was back. Her wish had worked. She could hardly believe it. But as relief flooded her heart, a dark thought lingered in the back of her mind. What price would the Calabash demand this time? The next few days in Bembe felt like a dream. Tunde was fully recovered, running through the village with his friends, laughing as if nothing had ever been wrong. Amara's family was overjoyed, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the Calabash wouldn't take anything this time. But her peace didn't last. One evening, as Amara prepared dinner, her mother, Mami Ijoma, came in from the fields. She moved slowly, her usual energy gone. "Mama, are you all right?" Amara asked, watching her closely. "I'm just tired, my child," Mami Ijoma said with a weak smile, but her face was pale and her hands shook as she sat down. Amara's heart sank. She had seen this before, the sudden tiredness, the weakness. It was just like Tunde when he had fallen ill. Panic gripped her chest. Could the calabash be taken from her mother now? The next morning, Mami Joma couldn't get out of bed. She was too weak, just like Tunde had been. Amara's worst fears were coming true. The calabash had saved her brother, but now it was taking her mother's strength in return. Desperate, Amara returned to Kelechi's hut. The wise old man looked at her with deep sadness when she told him what had happened. The calabash always demands balance, Amara, Kelechi said, his voice heavy. It gives with one hand and takes with the other. You cannot use its power without paying a price. But there must be a way to stop it, Amara cried. I never meant for my family to suffer. Kelechi sighed and sat quietly for a long moment before speaking. There is a way, but it is dangerous. The calabash is tied to an ancient spirit, one that is not easily controlled. You must find the spirit and confront it. Only then can you free yourself from its grasp. Amara's blood ran cold. Confront a spirit? She had never heard of anyone doing such a thing and surviving. But what choice did she have? If she didn't do anything, the calabash would keep taking from her family, and soon it might be too late. Kelechi handed her a small leather pouch filled with herbs. This will help protect you on your journey, he said. But be warned, my child, spirits do not bargain lightly. You must be ready to face whatever it demands. That night, as the village of Bembe slept, Amara packed her things and set out to find the spirit tied to the cursed calabash. The moon was high in the sky, casting long shadows over the narrow dirt paths. The calabash was silent now, resting in her bag, but Amara could feel its presence, heavy and powerful. She headed towards the forbidden part of the forest, where no villager dared to go. It was said that deep within those woods, the boundary between the living world and the spirit world was thin. Amara didn't know what awaited her there, but she knew she had to be brave, for her mother, for Tunde, for herself. As she walked deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller, their branches twisting together like giant, gnarled hands. Strange noises echoed through the night, distant whispers, rustling leaves, and soft, eerie laughter. Amara clutched the leather pouch tightly, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew the spirit was close. Suddenly, the path ahead of her disappeared, replaced by a thick fog. Amara took a deep breath and stepped forward. The fog seemed to swirl around her, pulling her in deeper and deeper until she could no longer see the trees or the stars above. And then she heard it. A voice, deep and ancient, echoed through the mist. You seek me, child of Bembe. You wish to break the pact. Amara's hands shook, but she stood tall. I do, she said, her voice steady. I want my family to be free from your curse. The mist swirled and a dark figure emerged before her. It was tall and shadowy, with eyes that burned like hot coals. The spirit's voice rumbled through the air. There is always a price. What are you willing to sacrifice, Amara? Amara's heart raced as she realized that the real battle was just beginning. Like and follow for part 2.